Imagine a world where dancing could kill you, where a single step could lead to days of uncontrollable movement, exhaustion, and even death. This isn't a nightmare or a twisted fairy tale. It's a real historical event that has baffled experts for centuries. Welcome to the dancing plague of 1518, where hundreds of people danced themselves to the brink of collapse in the streets of Strasbourg. By the end of the month, hundreds were afflicted. In a misguided attempt to cure the dancers, they actually encouraged more dancing, believing that the afflicted needed to dance out the madness. They even went so far as to construct a wooden stage and hire musicians to play for the dancers. Over the centuries, theories have abounded, each more intriguing than the last. Let's explore some of the most compelling explanations for the dancing plague of 1518. But this only seemed to make things worse, drawing more people into the deadly dance. In times of extreme stress, such as the famine and disease that plagued Europe in the 16th century, groups of people can sometimes exhibit shared delusions or physical symptoms with no apparent medical cause. The dancing could have been a manifestation of collective psychological distress, spreading through the population like a contagious idea. Some at the time believed the dancing plague was a form of divine punishment, perhaps for sins committed by the community. In a time when science was in its infancy and the causes of many phenomena were unknown, supernatural explanations often filled the gaps in understanding. Others thought it might be the work of demons or evil spirits possessing the dancers. But what connects these events, and why did they eventually stop occurring? For example, in 1962, a laughing epidemic broke out in a girls' school in Tanganyika, affecting nearly 100 students. More recently, in 2011, a group of teenage girls in Leroy, New York, developed mysterious tics and verbal outbursts, sparking fears of a modern-day dancing plague. Throughout medieval Europe, there were several outbreaks of what came to be known as dancing mania. It challenges our assumptions about free will and individual agency, forcing us to confront the uncomfortable reality that we may be more susceptible to mass movements than we like to believe. In 1374, a similar event occurred in Aachen, Germany, spreading to other cities along the Rhine. Ask yourself, am I moving to my own rhythm, or am I caught in a dance I can't control? In the end, the power to break free from the dance may lie within each of us. In an age of viral trends, online echo chambers, and rapidly spreading misinformation, are we really so different from those medieval dancers? Perhaps the greatest lesson we can learn from this strange chapter in history is the importance of critical thinking, empathy, and understanding in the face of collective behaviors we don't fully comprehend. In 1237, a group of children danced from Erfurt to Arnstadt, a distance of about 20 kilometers, in what became known as the Children's Crusade. In other grains, and when consumed, it can cause hallucinations, spasms, and psychotic delusions. A manifestation of collective trauma and stress, or something even more inexplicable? Perhaps the truth lies in a combination of factors, a perfect storm of physical, psychological, and social conditions that created this bizarre and haunting event. Ergot typically causes painful muscle contractions rather than the fluid, dance-like movements described in historical accounts. Additionally, ergot poisoning usually affects a more random distribution of people. Rather than spreading like a contagion, as the dancing plague seemed to do, they also remind us that, while our understanding of science and medicine has advanced dramatically since 1518, there are still aspects of human behavior that remain mysterious and unpredictable. In medieval Europe, where rye was a staple food, ergot poisoning was not uncommon. Could a contaminated grain supply have triggered the mass dancing in Strasbourg? It explains the rapid spread of the behavior and why it seemed to affect certain groups more than others. However, it doesn't fully account for the extreme physical endurance displayed by the dancers, who continued their movements far beyond normal human limits. Men, women, and children danced day and night, their bodies contorting in wild, uncontrollable movements. They danced until their feet were bloodied and raw, until they collapsed from exhaustion, only to rise and continue their frenzied ballet. Was it mass hysteria, a mysterious illness, or something far more sinister? Let us unravel this bizarre chapter in history and discover the truth behind one of the strangest epidemics ever recorded. Some succumbed to heart attacks, strokes, and sheer exhaustion. Others died from injuries sustained during their manic movements. The city was in chaos, and no one knew how to stop it. In the sweltering summer of 1518, the peaceful city of Strasbourg, France, was about to witness an event that would go down in history as one of the most perplexing and disturbing outbreaks of all time. It all began with a single woman, Frau Trafia, who stepped into the street and began to dance. At first, onlookers were amused, perhaps thinking she was celebrating, or had simply lost her inhibitions. But as hours turned into days, and Frau Trafia continued to dance without rest, it became clear that something was terribly wrong. What happened next defies explanation. Within a week, dozens of people had joined Frau Trafia in her endless dance. Authorities were at a loss. As the dancing plague reached its peak, deaths began to mount. So, what could have caused this bizarre and tragic event? One popular theory points to ergot poisoning as the culprit. Ergot is a fungus that grows on rye, while ergot poisoning could explain some of the symptoms. This doesn't quite fit the full picture.
Another theory suggests that the dancing plague was a case of mass psychosis, or mass hysteria.
This theory has gained traction among modern historians and psychologists. A third, more controversial explanation comes from the realm of the supernatural. While these explanations may seem far-fetched to modern ears, they reflect the deeply religious worldview of medieval Europe. Interestingly, the dancing plague of 1518 was not an isolated incident. These recurring incidents suggest that the dancing plague of 1518 was part of a larger pattern, strange phenomenon that gripped Europe for several centuries. Some researchers have drawn parallels between the dancing plagues and modern-day mass psychogenic illnesses. These comparisons highlight the enduring power of mass psychology and the complex interplay between mind and body in group settings. As we look back on the dancing plague of 1518, we're left with more questions than answers. Was it a tragic case of food poisoning? What we do know is that the dancing plague serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of the human mind and body, and the powerful influence of collective behavior. As we close this exploration of the dancing plague of 1518, let's take a moment to reflect on its relevance to our modern world. The next time you find yourself swept up in a trend or movement, remember the dancers of Strasbourg.